Colors fall, reflexes sharp, minds enthrall. Gamers play, this never ends. SSL, where legends blend. SSL, we fight tonight. Battles in the storyline. From the shadows to the dream, we are the SOOP StarCraft League. We are the SOOP StarCraft League. I want to live every moment I can give. In the now I will thrive. I want to
Hello and welcome to Group B of the round of 24 of the KB Live Mobile SSL Autumn 2024 season. Following Tier 1 Zerg Queen's elimination on the opening day yesterday, things are getting serious at the SOOP StarLeague. Today, 4 more players of another unpredictable Group B are waiting for you, so let's say hi to them. We shall start with Tier 1 player Mini. Hi. You're getting ready to participate in your 16th season proper in a row. You always seem anxious, and today likewise, you showed up to the studio super early. That's true, I always feel on edge. And today during setup, I switched from a small window or screen to a large one, which is a first for me. I don't know how well I'll adapt to this, so I'm kind of anxious. During the qualifiers, there was a moment you realized something had very nearly gone wrong. Could you elaborate a bit on this moment from the qualifiers where your heart sank? It's because I almost lost to sSaK in the qualifying match. I misused my units and it nearly cost me the game, but thankfully I set myself straight and won. There is no room for mistakes today. Mini seems to have warmed up well. We'll be watching closely, and his first opponent today is none other than Scan. Hey! It's been over 1,000 days since last time I got to introduce you on the main stage in Season 11. It would seem you are thrilled ahead of your match with a cheeky smile on your face. How are you feeling? Rather than being overly stressed, I'm, how should I put it, not feeling strongly either way because it's been such a long while. After the qualifiers, you actually shed a couple of tears on your stream. What were you feeling then? Honestly, people have this perception of me as someone who can't really play. They don't think I could ever advance, so making it into the tournament, I was so happy. Those were tears of joy. As it is your return to the big stage, you must be hoping to dispel this prejudice you say people have of you, but also erase this painful memory of getting eliminated with 2 losses last time. What is your focus today? As far as practice goes, this is a very difficult group. I mainly focused on versus Protoss. I think I absolutely need to win the first game. Looks like Scan is eyeing Bisu here. Let's turn to Bisu then. Hi. Bisu is also getting ready for a fresh start in the SOOP StarLeague. How are you feeling? In the ASL, the very first season, I was the runner-up, I went to the finals, so the league rebrand could actually be auspicious for me, I think. Bisu always gets off to a good start in a league's history, and today he seems as confident as ever. I wanted to ask about what level of difficulty this group presents to you. How would you rate it? How do you feel? Last season, I was in a group with C, Light, and Zealot, and me losing there would have been ridiculous. But this time it seems really difficult. The highest level of difficulty, you say? Well, because sSaK doesn't stream, so I have no data to go off of. Is that so? Bisu is in good spirits, but he is keeping his eye on sSaK, so let's say hi to sSaK. Hello. It would seem the players are eager to know what shape you're in since you don't stream and all. I have a label attached to me as someone who does collaboration streams first and only then StarCraft. And actually, because of having that label attached to me, I feel confident today. Both players and many fans alike consider you difficult to predict because when it seems you should get knocked out, you turn things around and advance, and then when it seems you'll advance, you end up dropping. There have been so many such cases. What will it be this time around, this season? Whenever I first saw the group, I thought someone was fooling around. Both Mini and Bisu were tier 1 players, and seeing both of them in our group, I thought it couldn't be true. This is honestly a really tough group. I'll try to advance with the practice I put in regardless. Got it. There's a few more points I'd like to touch on. As sSaK has just mentioned, Tier 1 and Tier 2 players, Mini and Bisu, are extremely strong. The first and last time these two met was in the round of 24 in Season 3, as long as 2,641 days ago. Such a long time ago, and Bisu did come out on top then. If you two were to end up playing each other today, you must be wondering who the winner will be. What do you guys think? Bisu? I don't even remember that game. It was so long ago, wasn't it? But back then, Mini wasn't as good as he is now. I don't know if I'll end up winning, but this is the big stage, so I will have to try. That's right. The Mini from that distant Season 3 and the present Mini are so different in terms of achievements and in terms of skill. What do you think, Mini, if you were to play Bisu in a PvP? I do remember losing, actually. I remember losing to Bisu, I remember losing to sSaK, so this group really doesn't tickle my fancy. It has also come to my attention that Scan has been practicing his heart out for this. It'll be a tough group, and so I'll have to do my best. You always seem the most worried in the round of 24, and today is no different. No, there's actually also a bit of a rivalry going on between Bisu and sSaK, as the two have met a bunch with Bisu leading 6-2, with sSaK scoring those map wins in the round of 8 of Season 3. Isn't it high time you turn this around? I think I'm at the same level as I was back then. Not great, but average. However, Bisu, compared to back then, well, he has dropped off by a lot. So I feel confident. Bisu, you consider sSaK a difficult opponent, and he is saying your skill isn't what it used to be. Isn't that a little harsh? Once a nemesis, always a nemesis. Oh, I see. Bisu is looking to repeat his past performance. Now, sSaK and Scan have also actually met, with sSaK eliminating Scan from his first ASL. Yeah, that's true. Do you remember? Oh, I remember. So, sSaK can take revenge on Bisu, and you can take revenge on sSaK today. We'll be going around in circles. Now, the thing about difficult opponents, sSaK is a difficult opponent. You never know with sSaK in the round of 24. He has defeated Mini in the round of 24 before. I'm wondering if you two, Scan, can shake things up here today as a tier 3 or 4 player. Many people expect me to drop out with 2 losses here, but regardless, I would like to show a bit of a miracle today. You will make the first miracle of the SOOP StarLeague happen. That's right. As good a motivation as any. Now to close things out, let's hear our players' final resolutions. Bisu? Last season I made it to the round of 8, and this time around I set myself a goal one step higher. I'll try and get to the round of 4. Looking forward to it. Mini? Befitting the start of a new league, the SSL, I will go far. Good. Scan? Having prepared to play after a while, I'll do my best and repay people with good games. Got it. sSaK? I would always get knocked out in the round of 24, but this time I'll knock one player out and advance. Understood. Looking forward to great games from the 4 of you. Thanks for the interview. You're watching Group B of the round of 24 of SSL Autumn, done in partnership with KB Live Mobile. As we wonder which 2 players will be joining the round of 16 today, let's get these matches underway.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to day 2 here of the SSL, formerly known as the ASL. We had an amazing day 1, quite a crazy upset, with Barracks moving on first out of the entire group. Today should be an exciting one. It could be a deep dive into the entire matchup of PvT in general.
Yeah, and it's a killer group. This is like one of the groups of death. We have 2 of the world's best 4 Protoss players, I would say. Like, Bisu's in great shape. Mini is one of the most consistent Protosses in the whole history of this tournament. And, of course, sSaK is always very good. And Scan is, I think, like a player that belongs in ASL. Just such a strong Terran player. He's been playing fantastically recently. This is a crazy group.
It's going to be fun. I think there's a real chance the 2 Protosses advance.
Yeah.
Interestingly, in this season of ASL, we actually have a lot of Terrans, which generally means whenever we have a lot of one race, it tends to filter out. We do tend to get close to that golden ratio by the final 8, final 4. But yeah, I mean, you look at Mini and you look at Bisu, and God, if any 2 Protosses were supposed to be advancing here, it would be these 2 guys. We already had Rain advance yesterday, although it was a pretty tumultuous group with Queen being knocked out right away, and Wicco from Wicco having his debut. Hope to see him again in a future season of SSL.
Yeah. And, these groups are pretty wild. You're definitely right about Terran players getting filtered out this season. I think we're going to see a fair amount of that. I think it's just like when you get, like, to the very top of the world, the top 4 or 5 players of each race are so much better than everyone else that it's just absurd, right? Like, we always see this. There's, like, something like 12 players that are basically always in the round of 16. And then we got a little rotating cast of people like Barracks that make it in sometimes. But yeah, it's going to be a fantastic one. I really don't know what to expect. It is all best of ones, but I do agree with you. Like, Mini and Bisu are definitely favored here. I hope sSaK and Scan have brought some strong ideas strategically for how to play on these newer maps.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. The maps are different in a lot of cool ways while still having pretty conventional geography and architecture to them. But it's an exciting time. I mean, with all these new maps in the SSL and all these new maps just now released on the new season of the ladder, it's going to be a fun time because the ideas that are going to be displayed here today are going to trickle down and permeate through the rest of the entire StarCraft scene, and we're going to start to see that new meta form.
Yeah, and I'm looking for some builds on a couple of these maps, so hopefully we get to see that. What are you guys doing here on this new Gladiator 3-player map? What was it called, Dominator or something like that? I need some TVP builds for this map, Taste, so I'm having a little bit of a hard time.
Yeah, well, we're definitely going to get some of those builds here today. Bisu, he's one of the gods of the past and still extremely viable here today. Still a real threat. But first, we're going to start things off with Mini. And Mini, this guy has really shown a new way to think about Protoss. Hyper abusive, very much a corner cutter. Somebody who will do maybe at times in best of ones and in some of the group stages where there's some best of 3s and best of ones, maybe not the best builds. It does seem like occasionally he's his own worst enemy. I think he still has some of the most strong macro play that's available. But we have seen when Mini doesn't get deep or doesn't win in an ASL and now an SSL, he does seem to make occasional bad decisions here for best of ones. So I'm curious how he's going to play this. I do think in a straight-up fight versus Scan, he should be able to take him. Yeah,
I think you're mostly right about that, but I do have to say, Scan has become a good friend of mine over the last few years. He's coached me a lot. I've gotten to hang out with him a lot. He's actually the strongest player with fluent English in the entire world by a good margin. And I've casted a ton of his games, so I know a lot about how Scan likes to approach this matchup. And I have to say, like, he won the CNSL, which is for the players that don't qualify for ASL 2 seasons ago, and he got second place to Motive last season. Of course, Motive made it this season as well to the SSL. So Scan is in superb shape. He has a very strong TVP right now. In fact, some of the best TVPs I've ever seen him play, he played very recently in that CNSL tournament. But is that enough to take out Mini, who is so at home on the big stage?
That is going to be the big question. I think it's possible, just like we saw with Barracks the other day. We knew it could happen, and it did happen. And times are, changing quickly here in StarCraft. I think it's always easy to get used to a couple of the players who played well the last 2 seasons, let's say, and just assume they're going to be passed through automatically. But it's never the case. We always have these upsets. So this is going to be a fun one. We are going to be going to the map Dominator here for map number 1.
All right, Dominator. This is the 3-player version of Gladiator. Let's get into it, see what these guys have for us today.
We are magic in the air. We are love, we are care. We are here for the ride. On the fun side by side.
Okay, in the center right, we've got Mini and his opponent down here in the bottom left. It's going to be Scan. Guys, before we go into the games here today, we just want to plug the Patreon. It is still the patreon.com/ASL. We are not changing
ASL
the name
English.
to it.
ASL English.
ASL English, sorry. It is not renamed to the SSL yet. Greetings from Mexico. Always good to see some foreigners there in the audience. So, guys, if you want to support us and help us continue to keep the history of StarCraft alive in the most important StarCraft tournament in the entire world, please consider signing up. You do get access to the secret Tastosis podcast, where you get to hear a little bit of our back and forth, our conversations, our banter before we start the recordings for this. And you're just doing a good thing, so we appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. Because of you, this is all possible. Now, this looks like it's going to be like... Wait, he goes all the way back with the minerals. So I think it's going to be a gateway. I think he's going to throw down a very fast gateway for some zealot pressure, which doesn't surprise me. It's like with Mini, he seesaws back and forth, right? It's like, okay, are we doing basically like a very strong cheesy build, or are we going Nexus first? I don't feel like there's very many, okay, I make the Dragoon and expand and all that. He brought me here. No, I like that.
We know.
Yeah, we were aware of that. Thank you very much. But hope that you enjoy. Now, this could be a little bit scary, right? Because if you get some zealots out there and you put some damage on the Marines and you can basically hold the top of the ramp, that's where games on Dominator are going to go really south really quickly. For any race, it doesn't matter. If someone's dominating the top of your ramp, those missed shots going up the ramp make it very hard to break out.
This was a approach that wasn't used that much, with the exception of like super early day StarCraft stuff, basically getting a couple Zealots and then Dragoons. It has been used by Bisu actually quite a bit in the last couple years, but you're putting pressure on, you're getting your Dragoons out a little bit later. But, this is really being applied here because this is a map where both players start out in a pit. They have to work their way onto high ground to get to their expansion, so it's the opposite of what you'd see on any other map that we normally cast. Normally you're on, at most, a plateau that you go down to a low ground to expand on. And usually, at least, you'd be just on low ground, and you move out to a low ground expansion. So the idea is that you can really punish the Terran and kind of beat them down the ramp. And if they get pushed down the ramp, suddenly it becomes really hard to ever expand. There's chance to miss from low ground to high ground. Protoss units early on are a little bit stronger than Terran units early on, so it's a pretty smart rush.
Yeah, it really can be difficult. And even this amount of damage on that Marine, it's very, very crucial, okay? So it takes 3 Zealot hits to kill a Marine, so putting any hits on is huge. It takes 36 Marine hits to kill a Zealot. So, you have to make sure that you're not taking very much damage here. He's going to have to get Vultures out. He's going to need his 3rd depot. And look at this. Another Zealot comes in. That is some very good SimCity from Scan. You can see he's prepared exactly for this. He had 2 SCVs blocking because that was the big move from Mini. If he can get in and flank the Marines and get them all down in health, the Dragoons that start to come up will dominate at that point.
So, this is not without its own risks, what Mini's doing, because he didn't really get that much done. You can see there's a period where the Dragoon isn't across the map yet, and the Zealots are alone. The SCVs are going to come out. He might actually be able to trap this. The SCVs are actually just a little bit quicker than the Zealots. It looks like they're going to get away. But Mini's being pretty smart. He's actually keeping the Dragoon back because he wants to stop a scout. There has not been a Nexus made yet. It looks like he either plans to make it pretty soon here, or he wants to make it look like he plans to make it soon here. So he's going to send the probe back and try to block the ramp. If done perfectly, this will block. Oh my god! Oh my god!
Oh my god!
Oh my god! I can't believe that. So it is possible to block that ramp with one probe, but it's a lot harder than it looks. And he basically juked just enough to deny that. Now, the fact that there's no Nexus when he's scouted means Scan knows something should be coming. And I don't know if the plan was to go for Shuttle Reaver, but we do have an observatory being made.
Okay, so when you see, as Terran, that they don't have their Nexus up, you have to go through a list of things that it could be, okay? And the scariest thing that it can be is DTs, because if you don't have the proper anti-DT, you instantly die, right? Like if you don't have either detection or enough mines up. So oftentimes what will happen is Terran will rush up to mines very, very quickly, or maybe up to a turret very, very quickly when they don't see the Nexus. So what Mini has done here is said, okay, you're probably going for one of those. Neither of those are going to be good against mass range Dragoons. So he's going mass range Dragoons with an observer so he can pick off any mines. And he's going to try to just go kill Scan. And without a bunker, it's very likely that that will happen. And we saw Scan cancel the bunker. Like he started one and then the pressure stopped and he just canceled it to get his command center out more quickly. So this is very scary.
Yeah, this is really cool. I want to talk about this more, but I think we're going to have to go right into the actual action itself because this rush is inbound here. Now, remember that 4 Dragoons can 2-shot a tank. And then you have Zealots here that can basically move in and soak. Okay, well, he's going to land the barracks.
That is a superb. That's a superb placement, Tasteless. That's going to be really hard to target those siege tanks now.
Okay, well, he's going to come in. He is targeting the first tank. He gets that one. The other one in the back might be a little bit harder to get, and I think this is going to save the day here for Mini. It seems like he wants to get more of these Dragoons over to the side. He is... Oh, he's going to barely get the kill. Okay, that was still very sloppy by Mini. I do think it's hard to micro the Dragoons over in that spot. Looks like this one Dragoon's going to have to get up here onto the high ground with everything else. A Goliath is here, which isn't going to be useful at all versus Dragoons.
No. It looks like he really thought a shuttle might be coming in, so the Dragoon is not going to be any good. Getting that bunker just barely gets it up and gets 2 Marines in. That will help on the defense very, very heavily. I'm sure a siege tank is on the way. I gotta say, that was a good hold from Scan considering. Like, that barracks placement was excellent. The SCV blocking was excellent. Now he's got, like, some worthless Goliaths and whatnot. He's got to block. Oh, no. He needed to get SCVs in the way of that. The observer's seeing perfectly where he was coming in.
Yeah, the barracks should be landed on the other side where it was before, because that's what's going to allow the tank to have the cover there. So when there's an opening like that, I mean, you can see the observer is just right out there looking into that area. So Scan is not dead. I mean, he's hanging on. He's still taking a beating. He's losing some SCVs. The Goliaths, again, they can't really do anything to help in the fight here. The Dragoons have better range. Another tank comes down. Is Mini going to go for it? No. He's going to back up. And I got to say, this has been a really interesting game as far as development on both sides early on. It almost looks like a really, really old PvT from, like, the first few years of the game.
Yeah.
Before everybody knew how to fast expand safely, there was a lot more build-up as far as, like, tech and units on both sides before you could take a base. But I do think the map Dominator lends itself to situations like this.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I'm surprised by a lot of the decisions that were made, because I understand Mini's play there to try to counter, like, mines, which might have stopped a DT rush. The fact that Scan somehow intuited that he didn't need any detection and instead went siege mode is what allowed him to hold on here. So very well done from him. And we actually have the Reaver coming in now, but a decent amount of units, like 2 Siege Tanks popping at exactly the right time here for Scan. The Goliath's putting some damage onto that shuttle, but Mini's going to try to focus on killing those Goliaths off now.
Okay, he's basically bruising each unit. So he's not really getting the job done. I guess one Goliath is going to be killed off as collateral damage from the Scarab there, but, you know, this is looking okay, I think, for Scan. He drove that out. I think Protoss probably wanted to get a lot more done, but despite all the crazy interactions early on here on both sides, things are calming down, and we're getting into the kind of PvTs that we saw, especially in the last year. You know, games where we're getting the speed shuttle out. We'll probably even see another shuttle made a little bit later on. You can try to basically punish either the entrance or the main, depending on lopsided positions the Terran might find themselves in.
And, you know, looking at this, Scan going up to 6 factories, getting that engineering base, so he has some turrets at home to defend against those incoming Reaver drops. Mini, of course, has gone 3 base during all of this. So, you know, he started off on 1 base, just making a lot of Dragoons and Observers. Now he's got an additional base over Scan, but there might be a window here where Scan is able to punish him, right? Like, the army of Mini is not that big. His production is not that big. So I think that Scan has made the right decision here. He's going to have to try to attack Mini.
Now, the main is big. It's very open. You're kind of surrounded by this high ground, so it's really easy to get shuttles in here like this. One Reaver shot comes. Is it going to dud? Oh, my God, it's a dud. That's so good for Scan.
Yeah, thank
and
God.
Is the second one? Oh, man.
Oh, and the shuttle just barely gets out of there. What? It's so low. Oh my God, he gets a Scarab off on it too. So painful right now. Oh, and I can't even believe it. Mini's micro looking very, very good here and slowing Scan down, which is exactly what he needs to do.
Yeah, just keeping Scan occupied, making him really cover all this area inside of his base. Tanks are going to unsiege, and I think Scan wants to go for a push. We've got the Citadel done. I didn't see a Templar Archives. And it looks like we could have the big push come in now.
Well, a lot of Dragoons coming over. I think that Scan's army is still actually stronger, but he's dropping some Zealots off here. Oh, God, if that Reaver Scarab hits, it does hit. Having a hard time here, Scan is taking tons of damage on his Siege Tanks. Just Mini with so much pressure, but his army is really, really small still.
Yeah, I mean, the tanks are overall still in high numbers. Not enough anti-air to really drive the shuttle back. It's all going to be about delaying. Oh, he's going to try to go inside the main. He's going to unload the Zealots and then the Reaver. And there's no tanks here. They might be spawning soon, but for the time being, these SCVs are going to be easy shots.
Oof. This is really, really painful. The Reaver is getting a huge amount of damage in there. Scan's going to continue to try to attack because, like, there's no Zealot legs, and again, the standing army of Mini is very small. But if Mini survives, he's going to win the game because he is dealing a lot of damage to Scan. There's a lot of mining that is gone. And here we go. Mini's going to try to come down and break this push.
Yeah, the SCVs are here. I don't know how handy this is going to be. He drops one right in there, and it pulls the mine in. The connection not quite made, but the rest of these Scarab shots are going to be very easy to connect onto the tanks. And, of course, having SCVs lost with that drop, and then oh, my God, another great connection there. Yeah, I mean, I think there's no way for Scan to recover. Yeah. He is just hurting, and Mini's on 3 bases. Oh, remember the shuttles from earlier?
Oh, no. Brings him back in. That very hurt Reaver going to start getting more kills. And this is where, as Terran, you're like, oh, damn, everything has gone wrong at this point. I feel like he had truly a great opener, like the way he parried every single thing that went wrong. Every bit of aggression that Mini tried to apply. But now you look at it, and a lot of things have gone wrong for Scan, right? These Reaver drops that have been hitting while Scan's trying to move out, and then his army gets busted. You know, Mini playing with as few Protoss units as you can and having very good success in these fights.
Yeah. You know, the 4th base being taken here, there's so many ways for Protoss to play this. This is why that shuttle style is so hard to deal with, is when you have a Terran that's kind of powered up and positionally hard to break. When they try to move out, they can then get punished. The second push is going to come, and I would imagine this is just going to be defeated between the Dragoon push and then the shuttles just unloading Zealots on top of the tanks to make them useless.
And now Mini coming in. He does have those Zealot legs, and of course these 3 speed shuttles, 2 of which are very, very low health, if those are the same ones that made it out of the main base.
They are.
Yeah, the 4th Nexus coming up. And look at that. Oh my god. He is going to be able to pick off some of these shuttles, but the Reaver's getting these insane hits on the siege tanks.
Yeah, we see the Scarabs just continuing to connect. And you can basically juggle the Reaver in and out. It's never going to actually get targeted by the tanks as long as you do it in between the shots. Mini taking a big win there. Impressive game. You know, the ending was cool, but really the start was super interesting.
Yeah,
how they both opened and played, and how Scan got a read and knew it wasn't DTs.
Yeah, that was one of the more impressive things. Maybe he had a window into Mini's practice or something like that. I'm not sure, but it was an excellent read and allowed him to actually be in a pretty good position. I think the Reaver drops just kind of screwed Scan up, and when he saw that, maybe he should have pulled back and just taken a third. You know? If you just kind of turtle that position, I think you're going to be okay. But well played there from Mini. Going to be a tough one for Scan. And he'll drop down to that loser's match.
Yeah. Cool to see that Dragoon push and how scary that can be. I mean, it shows you why Terrans need bunkers in siege mode at times. You know, you can still take fights. Mini sticking with that style that's really been hyper modern. You know, mass shuttles, getting lots of Reavers, taking drops, kind of almost doing like mini recalls into their main sometimes to make a powering 2-base Terran a lot weaker. Guys, more PvT coming up next. sSaK versus Bisu. We will be right back.
틀에 박힌 건 그만. 구속은 사양할게. 부담 없는 게 좋아. 통신을 내 방식대로. Live my life. Live M.
근데 요즘 바프를 컨셉 잡아서 찍더라고. 맞아. 주방 요리사처럼. 여기만 은근히 뭘로 가리는 그런 것도 봤어. 프라이팬으로 가리나? 아, 그럼 프라이팬 크기에 따라 디자인해볼 수 있는 거야? 와, 완전 궁중 팬일 수도 있잖아.
타이밍은 오래 걸리니? 형, 드론이. 그러니까 드론이 소리가 나요.
I step up in the place like my future looking way bright. I gotta keep the shades on for the haters throwing shade, right? I tell a fine girl pull up, then work her out like pull-ups. You know what they say about if the head right, then I'ma pick her like a pull-up. You can count on me to rise up when the lane talking down on me. Hey, that's more clout on me. If I'm being honest, like I told you, out on me. Yeah, I'll show you what my life like. G5, that's a high flight. Big money, that's my type. Now welcome to the high life. Oh wow, y'all know we run the town. Get wild.
Welcome back, everyone. We are going to go into match number 2 in a second here. It's going to be on Dominator again. PvT proving so far to be pretty interesting on this map. The Terran does not have easy access to the high ground. And so we saw, you know, gateway pressure builds. Actually pretty old stuff as far as all the ideas in StarCraft are. And not really used for most of the history of StarCraft either, although we've seen it revised and kind of brought back in the last 2.5 to 3 years.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that you know, even though it was like kind of a cheesy opener, was mostly stopped. I think the fundamentals of what Mini was doing was smart, right? Keep the pressure on early with the high ground natural, and you know, build that into a build that counters what your opponent should be doing. And then into the Reaver, I think, was especially strong because he's facing the back of his main. And, you know, a map like that's very hard to stop Reaver on. So I think it was just, like, really excellently done from Mini and very hard to hold on. So now we're going to go into a different matchup here. It's going to be Bisu going up against sSaK. And this is the greatest song. You know, Bisu, actually, you mentioned that he opens like that with a double zealot sometimes. Wouldn't be hugely surprised if he were to do something like that. And I also just want to throw this out there. Bisu is in very good shape. I've seen a lot of his PVTs lately. He's looking really good.
Yeah, he is in very good shape. He's been practicing a lot. I think the fact that this league is so healthy and is probably not going to end anytime soon, I don't see why they would turn it off ever. It does very well. It gets a lot of viewers. It really is kind of the buzz in Korea when this tournament comes on. You know, I think he wants to reclaim that throne again. I think he's super motivated by this event specifically and coming back and maybe one day winning and kind of being that the god, being the GOAT again.
Yeah, yeah. And I hope that he can. Like, I felt like last season he was in such good shape that it could have occurred. And looking at this, like, sSaK, I want to mention, like, he's kind of a very technical Terran player. And I think that his style actually matches up reasonably well against Bisu.
Yeah, I think sSaK can definitely hold his own. Bisu does sometimes show just really... Well, we'll get into it in a second, guys. We're going to start this game up. Bisu versus sSaK on Dominator again. Another PVT and what is likely to be a very PVT-intensive day. Let's get into it. So we've got Bisu down here in the bottom left, and sSaK in the center right on Dominator. I would just wanted to point out while we were going into the game before the kind of intro interrupted it, Bisu's still very good at a lot of the very old ways to play Protoss and still makes it work today. Like, he's not a guy, he's not a snake that's shedding his skin. It's like he's just growing more and more layers of Protoss onto himself. He can do a lot of the really different-looking modern stuff that other pros do as Protoss, but he will bring out really old stuff sometimes and still make it look viable, still kind of understand how to use it in a modern setting. So this is going to be a fun one.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he's going to be aiming for here on this map, but I can say, you know, I've seen a lot of his games lately. And glad to see so many excited people out there. I've seen a lot of his games lately of this matchup. He's been using a lot of Arbiter builds, and I think probably, you know, it's been a pretty solid counter to some of these 4 and 5 and 6 factory type plays. Not sure if he'll go for that there. Here, I do think Arbiter is a good map here because it is kind of hard to block the recalls later on, and that's all good and cool, but when I say that sSaK is a technical player, he's like a player that's more likely to be on something like 4 or 5 factories before expanding. He's more likely to have his comm sats, maybe fly north a dropship. It kind of gives some flexibility against weird play, if that makes sense, right? Because, like, some of these builds, it really matters what you're doing. Like, if you're an optimizer, some styles will be better against like an optimizer, right? Where it's like, okay, he doesn't have a lot of flexibility here, so I'm going to punish him in this way. It's hard to find a very specific way to punish sSaK because of that flexibility of having maybe a few more units and a little bit more scouting at his disposal.
It's going to be Nexus right away for Bisu. Obviously, this has been a build that is just so good. There's many variations of it, many different iterations you can try. Nexus right away into Forge. You can do into 2-gate, into tech later. You can go into tech immediately without a forge. So not only is it strong, it can branch into pretty much anything. Now, in this game, is he going to get a second gateway?
I think he's going to go
Get a forge. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So he's going to go gateway forge. And we should point out that there are rushes Terran can do that can beat this, and that's why forge is sometimes being picked here, is that just getting the forge out quickly basically makes it impossible to do any rush other than a super fast siege mode rush, which I don't think is really that strong.
Yeah, I'm generally of the same mind there. It's kind of a weak option to go for. He does put his add-on. He does start the third depot, so he is going to rush. I think it probably will be Marine Siege Tank. That's kind of my guess. You can go a second factory with that. Like, there's a few different ways you can do this. And if you can get Protoss to maybe go down the wrong route, because the two big options for Protoss right now with the Forge Fast expansion are either go Robo or go 3-gate. And 3-gate is like non-stop units, and that's to bust the push. And if you do that, you generally bust the push. Is that another depot? Yeah, he's going heavy here. This should just be siege mode plus Marines. And you can notice he's hiding some Marines behind. So if Bisu doesn't go 3 or 4-gate here, okay, and he does. Well, there you go. It's a very good read here from Bisu.
Yeah. I mean, this is just quite strong. I think that sSaK's idea is great. This is being played more like a poker hand here. Like, you know, Bisu, he is responding to it in the right way, even though from the exterior view, it would look like this could be something else. The problem with this is, like, you just need enough units as the Protoss, and you can hold it. And keep in mind, you do have probes you can use. There is a probe on the mini-map. I think it's in the top right. And notice that he's going to the top right by the minerals because he's expecting this rush to come, so he wants to right-click on the gas or the minerals. Or maybe not. But, I don't know where it's going now.
Yeah,
maybe he wants to go onto the minerals at the third?
It looks like maybe he was trying to click the main and he misclicked or something. That's 4 Zealots, by the way. I've never seen anyone go 4 Zealots to open here, but the Zealots are like a crucial part of trying to break through. I like the amount of SCVs that sSaK has brought because he's just going to need to block and keep his siege tank alive. That's incredibly important.
Okay, well, he's got the probes coming through now. There's one tank being repaired frantically. It looks like it is going to be shut down. And I think, well, hold on, a second tank is going to come up. You're always okay to trade out probes here. I love the second cannon. It's kind of like making a second sunken colony when these quick tank pushes come out. You're just trying to buy a little bit of time. The cannon has to be shot down because if you try to attack it with the Marines die so fast it's crazy.
Yeah, I think the primary thing the cannon is doing is it's blocking anything like a bunker from being made. Like, if you could get a bunker up, this push would have a real chance of working. But here we go. Bisu going to walk forward. He should be able to hold this pretty easily this time. He's got so many units. And, you know, I feel like this is what we mostly see with this rush against the Forge Fast expansion. I definitely agree with you that it's not the strongest option that you have against this, but sSaK has tried this out, and he's killing a lot of Dragoons. He's killing a lot of probes. Don't forget, he brought like 6 SCVs himself, which are all going to be dead now. And yeah, this is not a position that Terran's going to end up winning.
Do you skip Dragoon range when you do this? These look like rangeless Dragoons.
You do, yeah.
Okay.
It's just constant production out of all your production structures. You just kind of like force the hold. It doesn't matter how sloppy it is because as soon as you hold, the game is over, right? Like, this has no chance. He's like, oh, what about 8 SCVs, 2 Marines, and a tank now? It's like, well, no. I mean, he can pull probes endlessly because he's producing twice as many workers as you. So it's not. This is not going to be enough.
Yeah, you don't get vultures or mines with this because you need the tanks to shoot down the cannons to even get to the base. And so it forces a composition that's just actually very manageable. Dragoons and Zealots don't really care about tanks and Marines. The SCVs are in the front here to try to soak up damage and take a fight. But, I mean, there's a point where even as bad as Dragoons are without range, they will just kill tanks.
Well, you have a lot of health. You have a lot of damage. And there's not that much setup from Terran. You know, if this were a position where it was like a 2-factory and he had some mines out, obviously it would be a lot slower. But yeah, maybe then they would get punished for not having range. But here they don't even care. So he's going to GG. There's absolutely no sense in him staying in this game any longer. And GG is called. And that means it's not going to be a PvT-only night here, Tasteless.
Yeah, we're going to go to a PvP for the winners match and then a TvT for the losers, which no matter what will give us one more PvT for the evening. But yeah, right now, Protoss domination, man.
Yeah. I mean, they are the best 2 players in the group without question. So you can't be too surprised. Like Mini choosing a very offensive in-your-face build and Bisu choosing a very greedy reactive build there. I don't think that sSaK chose the right strategy. I think you do need to be kind of unit heavy early on. So I understand the factory expansion, like as an idea, like a factory opener as opposed to a gasless. But yeah, that just absolutely not working out for him.
Yeah, fast Nexus, very strong. Terran's still struggling with how to grapple with that, how to deal with it. And I mean, it is a known push, the one factory siege mode push, but you just kind of overwhelm it. The Protoss almost becomes like the Zerg there. Just try to get enough Zealots, enough Dragoons. Use your probes if you have to, whatever. As long as you hold it, you've got 2 Nexuses. They have 1 command center, 1 factory, to your 2 production, or your 3 production facilities for, you know, the gateways, the 2 production facilities for probes. It's just really good. Guys, winners match coming up, a PvP to die for. Bisu versus Mini is next.
틀에 박힌 건 그만. 구속은 사양할게. 부담 없는 게 좋아. 통신을 내 방식대로. Live my life. Live M.
사랑하는 사람인데 남자도 좋아하고 여자도 좋아해. 앞으로 안
이제
만난대?
앞으로 너만 만난대.
아 그럼 오케이. 너 보고 남자 역할도 해달래. 20년지기?
제 첫사랑이랑 완전 20년지기 친구랑 한 적 있어요?
뭘? 지금도 아니 사귄 적이 있냐고. 사귄 적이 있고 짝사랑한다. 이건 바람 아니라 생각해.
일기장을 봐버렸어. 보경이에게 너무 미안하다. 보경이와 키스할 때도 그 여자 생각이 났다.
근데 요즘 바프를 컨셉 잡아서 찍더라고.
맞아.
주방 요리사처럼.
뭐 여기만 은근히 뭘로 가리는 그런 것도 봤어.
프라이팬으로 가리나 뭐.
그런 프라이팬 크기에 따라서 그걸 진작에 볼 수 있는 거야? 완전 김종필일 수도 있어.
맞아.
저희 오늘 워스트랑 베스트를 뽑는데요. 워스트로 뽑힌 분은 무슨
굉장히 많은 썰들을 풀었다고 생각해.
많은 남친들 없애는 당긴다. 마음이 아프다. 게임 할까?
하나, 둘, 셋.
준비 많이 했어? 저 가서 세팅 좀만 하면 돼요. 오늘은 빨리 좀 부탁해. 타이밍은 오래 걸리니? 형, 드론이 그러니까 사각 그러니까 디테일이 좀 떨어지시더라고요. 사각 형 게임 내 스타리그 함께 지켜보도록 하겠습니다.
You realize that symbol, the Protoss symbol, wasn't there for StarCraft 1?
Yeah.
That's one of the defining marks from StarCraft 2 that really carried back into StarCraft 1 was that they gave each of the races a symbol. Anyways, this is going to be a PvP. This is going to be a lot of fun, too. I mean, I do feel like whenever we get super hyped about a PvP, it turns into one guy DT rushing and the other guy not getting detection.
Yeah.
So I hope that doesn't happen here. But I'm going to put that disclaimer out there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's too bad it's not on Dominator, so I could tell everyone who's going to win at 3 minutes and 12 seconds and then just be quiet. But yeah, I actually didn't catch what map it's going to be. These two playing PvP, they're both very, very good at Protoss versus Protoss, so hopefully should be a nice one. Going to be on Deja Vu. One of these guys going to advance immediately to that next round.
It's going to be interesting. Obviously, you'd like to get out as quickly as possible here. I would put this at 50-50. I think it's very tough to say who's clearly better in the matchup. I think with these two, we won't go into macro games. I think it's going to come down to very sharp, dramatic techs, or maybe Reaver versus Reaver. Let's find out, guys. We're ready to go into game number 3 of the evening here at Group B and see who survives out of these two Protoss legends. Okay, Mini in the top left, Bisu in the top right. And, you know, PvP, it's weird. I feel like when I cast with you, Artosis, and I basically only cast with you, we never have long late game PvPs, but they do exist. They do happen.
Yep.
I do see pros play them on their streams. I don't know what it is about tournaments like this where they don't occur as much, but you know, there is like a hump to get over for both sides before you can really steadily macro up and get High Templars and Storm and Archons and you know, start to take the whole map. But a lot of it does come around to the hard edges of Protoss's tech post Cybernetics Core. It's the DT tech, the Robo tech, the option to just mass into Dragoons with range. That makes for a lot of games where one player basically, you know, gets the killing blow on the other early on.
Yeah, I have a reasonable idea of why that's the case in like an ASL, SSL type tournament. And the thing is, like, you're actually, like, for a tournament like this, you are 100% dialed in, right? And there's only, like, you know, there's only so much time per day that you can be 100% dialed in. So if you're playing like 8 hours of StarCraft in a day, which a lot of these guys do, you can't be playing at 100% of your power for 8 hours. It just, no one can do it. And people who think they can, like, you actually can't. Like, this has been solved, right? So like here, you're gonna have to play a maximum of 3 games tonight. So you can just be like laser focused. And so I think that allows you to, like, capitalize on tiny mistakes or nail tiny edges, which kind of makes the games a little bit sharper than what you see when you watch people ladder.
Yeah, it could be true. Could be true. I feel like also, you know, once you elect to not get a Robo or to go for DTs, and, you know, not all DT rushes are made equally. Like, there's very conservative DT plays where you're just expanding and making a cannon. You know what I mean? And, you know, if they try to get cheesy with you, you could win outright. But we've had a lot of games where people are just, you know, going all or nothing. And that does allow you to swing games or lose very easily. So we'll see if it's going to be a game like that so far. For now, we can't really tell. This is the most standard of PvP openings. It's both sides going for one Zealot with their gas and their Cybernetics Core. Usually the Dragoon will always be able to drive the probe out so that you can't see what they're going to do. And then that's when the poker game begins. That's where, you know, there are some tricks. I mean, there's even tricks like we saw Dragoon range upgrading there. We've even had, you know, games where people will get range and try to get the probe out early just to cancel it. Kind of an obsolete way to play, but Yeah, I mean, these are just these approaches. Now, this is 2 Zealots, by the way. That's interesting. That usually can telegraph a fast expand.
Oh, is that what
later
that
on.
says? Okay. Why do you get 2 Zealots if you're planning on a fast expansion? Like, what's the... I actually don't understand what the logic would be on that.
I think it maths out where he gets the Robo a little bit quicker along with the Dragoon range.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's kind of safe. Yeah, go ahead.
No,
it's almost like you need stuff. You need attacking units, and like a Zealot can do something. A Dragoon is maybe a little bit better when you get enough of them.
Yeah, I think you and I are actually thinking the same thing, but expressing it differently. Where, like, if I'm a Terran and I see 2 Zealots, I'm like, oh, but he's not being super aggressive with them. It's more like, oh, he's saving gas for tech, right? So that's what I was thinking. It was like, oh, maybe this is like a quick robo or something. But what you're looking at is like, yeah, it's a quick robo to get the Nexus. So, yeah.
If you go back way into the annals of ASL history when Flash was playing random, I believe there was a game where he successfully tricked somebody into thinking it either was or was not a DT rush based off of some subtle things with the opening. So sometimes seeing 2 Zealots can also mean that behind it there's a Citadel.
Mm-hmm.
But, basically it doesn't mean an attack right away. You're kind of teching up. When you're going for Dragoons back-to-back, just getting the 50 extra gas put into like a Robo and Dragoon range and everything else kind of lets you get stuff out a little bit more quick. And you got to think that when you're both going for gas first, like this, there's a bit more of a tech race.
Mm-hmm.
How can we cut corners to try to get more in that direction? And Bisu's going to be expanding. I've almost not paid attention to what he's doing. I've been watching Mini so closely.
Yeah.
Seems like Bisu's doing, again, kind of an older-looking approach here. He's going for, I think, what Stork's done a lot of, which is basically you're going to expand, but also just get 2 gates, get your Robo out here. You might even get a support bay if you think a push is coming. And with these 2 Dragoons that Bisu has, he's basically constantly checking and saying, okay, if you're not expanding, you are attacking. So that's all I have to be ready for.
Yeah, and he is going for his own Observatory and Reaver tech. So all of that a little bit later than Minis, but he does already have that Nexus up. So it feels to me like Bisu's build is a bit better here. Like, Mini is going to have a little bit of time where he has a few more units. And, well, this is actually kind of a big catch here. If he can get some kills, puts a lot of damage down onto these Dragoons. Bisu has to be careful about that. But it feels like the onus is completely on Mini. Like, he has to come across the map and do some damage.
Yeah, he does for sure. Oh, wow, he's going to play... He's going to slow cook it, man. Yeah,
that
he's
doesn't
just gonna
look right.
with him.
I know that the build he's done looks uber defensive, which looks weird for Mini, where he got the Observer first, and he sat very defensively on top of his ramp. But like, how in the world do you not get miles behind against Bisu here? Like, how Bisu's had this expansion up forever.
The 2 Zealots that we saw early on, that could also be gas banked into shuttle speed.
Oh, okay.
As well.
Yeah.
If you do try to slow play this, you basically have to go shuttle speed and try to get some value that way. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen here. I mean, I do feel like when I watch these guys play, they just understand the matchup so much better than me when I try to explain it. But, there is also the world where, like, okay, I'm behind, but if I push by now, this should just not work.
Yeah.
Like, if you think back, we've had a lot of, especially in ASL for whatever reason, a lot of games of just failed pushes. And where maybe, okay, I'm behind, but the game goes on, right?
Yeah.
It might be better to at least play a game where we can try to find something than to try to close it out with an all-in. We do see Mini moving on the map now, but he's expanding with this. So it doesn't have the same properties and same goals and ambitions necessarily that you would have if Mini had not expanded, right? And is basically just trying to, tip the scale in the fight here.
Well, Mini comes up with his push, gets a Scarab out there right away, actually gets a very good connection. Might look at a second one there as well. Some pretty decent damage being put down. I love those high ground Dragoons there of Bisu. Just putting a little bit of damage onto Mini's army. But yeah, we have a little bit of a dance there that occurs, but Mini ends up pulling back. Not really worth it to spend all your minerals on Scarabs to hit a Reaver that's not going to be there or a Pylon.
Right. It's always worth a poke, especially when they make the Pylon wall, because it's a little bit harder for them to attack into you. They've kind of blocked themselves out. The Pylon is basically a damage sponge. You know, pathing and Brood War isn't that clean, so putting obstructions there does kind of sandbag progress. But for now, the formation that Bisu has, he's pretty fine. Remember that Bisu did expand earlier. He does have more probes, or at least should. Mini's playing catch-up. Mini is going to have a positional edge, and, you know, it does seem like on this map you could just lurk outside the ramps that we see here on the left and maybe try to contain them from there. You know, Dragoons are pretty bad shooting onto high ground.
For sure. They're probably the worst unit in the whole game shooting onto high ground. They just shoot so slowly. Now, here comes Bisu. He does have a lot of supply here from that quick expansion. Microing very heavily with his Reavers, forcing Mini back. Mini trying to take this high ground to get a good engage, but not really getting it. Losing a Reaver right there. Bisu just looking fantastic with this push out.
Yeah, Scarab shot, and it actually connects onto one of the Reavers. It might have hit both. It did hit both. Okay, so there's still double Reaver inside. I don't know how many Reavers are back home. Momentum swing for Bisu now. He's got one Reaver. He's got a decent number of Dragoons. There's two options here for Bisu if he wants to aggress. He can either try to push at the front, or he can feign a push and then run into the main, or maybe even at the top of the natural and try to kill workers that way.
Well, right now, Bisu coming up and going to try his own push here. The pylon goes up to tank that damage. And, yeah, look at this. The Reaver doesn't have a shuttle, so he just instantly snipes it. And this looks like it's going to go to Bisu very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, this is really scary. The Scarabs actually connect with almost literally every probe that was there.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. Now, Bisu doesn't have a shuttle over here. I guess it doesn't matter. The damage has just become too high. It looks like this Reaver's going to try to run up the ramp. A Scarab connects onto that, and that should be GG. Beat a Mini, recoiling in his chair in frustration. Yeah. I think really regretting how that interaction went. You know, over the high ground area. It seemed like Bisu just, you know, stayed patient. Mini going to have to fight one of these two Terran gods coming up here as Bisu escapes first in Group B.
Well, the real god in this group is Bisu, the greatest Protoss in the history of the game, making it look easy against one of the most successful players of the ASL era. You know, Mini obviously very emotional, as is always the case. But Bisu just showed fantastic skills there. I love to see Bisu in such good shape. And really, I feel like he's been in fantastic shape, top 4 Protoss in the world for the last couple of years.
Yeah. Props to Bisu. You know, he basically got the build order edge. I think Mini tried to play it out, tried to take a little bit of a tactical setup. It just did not work. You can see that shuttle speed is available for both of these guys. So it wasn't like one guy had the upgrade, the other didn't, you know. And I feel like, you know, in a lot of these games, shuttle speed's almost mandatory. Like, it just doesn't really make sense to not get it anymore. Because if someone else gets it, then it's like, well, it's, you know, someone's just playing with such an edge here. You know, the shuttle, a lot of times when that's killed, really is a sign of where things are going to go. Because if one player keeps the shuttle alive the whole time, even if Reavers are dropped and picked off here and there, at least you have some control in fights.
Yeah.
Where I think the fact that it was the Reaver and the shuttle that was killed for Mini, Mini wasn't able to have his own shuttle to try to juggle and come up with some tricks and maneuvers when this push came in over here.
Yeah, Reavers just kill Reavers too quickly. You got to be able to save them from those shots. And you can see he picks off that Reaver, and as soon as that Reaver's dead, it's basically done. Bisu's going to out-micro you and be able to kill everything off. Much better build from Bisu there. Mini not really knowing what Bisu was up to. Obviously, he wouldn't have executed his build as he did if he saw that Bisu had that expansion so quickly.
We're going to go to an interview, guys.
You're watching Group B of the round of 24 of KD Live Mobile SSL Autumn 2024. Let's have a word with our first player to join the round of 16 today, Bisu. Congratulations. Thank you. Advancing through to the round of 16 in first place, you put your fans at ease today as they watched your games. This is your 6th round of 16 in a row already. Let's first hear how you're feeling. I thought today would not be easy. Mini notwithstanding, sSaK and Scan play really well too. I thought I could actually end up getting knocked out for the first time in a while. Could it be because I won the first match? The games just went well today. Everything ended up working out. In the game against sSaK, you dealt with his aggression with ease, facing no crisis in the match, and going up against Mini, you prepared a one-gate expo. What made you choose that build? I did not originally intend to play that, but Mini's response to this opening is usually a robo or robo-centered play, so first it's about picking the right build. Now Mini's Reaver control is pretty good, so I wanted to end it ASAP. It's a good thing I managed to snipe his shuttle and Reavers. You ended up overwhelming him with superior supply thanks to a quick expansion, but there was a moment you let some Dragoons slip past in the middle. People were flabbergasted. But that's because I'm old. I can't see. I couldn't see them on the minimap. The two was like, what the hell? I see. Well, still in the battle on the high ground, you overpowered Mini, defeating him all the way back then and once more today to advance to the round of 16. Now, you mentioned your goal for this season is to get to the semi-finals. It would seem you are one step closer to achieving that goal. You said this is my 6th round of 16 in a row, right? It's been what, 3 years since I've been to the round of 4? 2 or 3 years? I would like to know what it feels like again. Recently I dropped to snow in the round of 8 and couldn't show what I had in me, so this time I'd like to get far. Hearing how determined you are this season, a lot of fans must be watching this with anticipation. Any words for your fans or colleagues? Honestly, I did not have any expectations. Just to play well and then roll with it. And if I get knocked out, then well, it can't be helped, is what I thought. But playing with a relaxed approach seems to have yielded a good result. The games just went well. I would like to thank Royal and JYJ for practicing with me. Also, Terra asked me to throw him a shout out if I end up doing an interview here. So Mr. Terra, thank you. Thanks to Sinai members cheering online. Thanks to my fans who always cheer for me too. And Soki, thank you. Looking forward to a good showing from you this season. Congratulations on advancing through. Thank you. And that does it for our interview with our round of 16 mainstay Bisu. We'll find out who makes it through in second place in just a few when we return with the losers and elimination matches.
틀에 박힌 건 그만. 구속은 사양할게. 부담 없는 게 좋아. 통신을 내 방식대로. Live my life. Live M.
Welcome back, everyone. The SSL continues on. It's time to eliminate one of these two Terran players. And I don't know, Artosis. I think this should be really close. I think it's going to be a tough call.
Yeah, I do think so. You know, Scan, though, doesn't have the same level of experience that sSaK has. You know, sSaK has been getting into ASL like basically nonstop. This is only Scan's second ASL at this point. So, you know, I am leaning towards sSaK being able to take this. I think it's going to be a tough one. And sSaK, in fact, is quite good at Terran versus Terran as well. But a lot of this could be in that opener. We're going to be going to Deja Vu once again. And I'm trying to think how that map will kind of alter this. Definitely the Vulture map control, if we go like Factory Expand versus Factory Expand, is going to be very important here.
It does seem like center play is going to be hugely impactful.
Yeah.
Like in any matchup, like PvZ, the Lurker contains are brutal. TVT, obviously, Siege Tank contains are just brutal, right? So I would guess it's going to come down to a lot of, you know, center control, which is always true in TVT, but I think especially true here now. But we have had some shorter TVTs lately as well, to point out. It doesn't seem like the matchup is necessarily as painfully long as it sometimes is.
Yeah, it definitely can be a very long matchup. I don't think that'll be the case here. Whoever gains control of that high ground area, going up a ramp into siege tanks and or spider mines is basically impossible. So there should be a lot of jockeying for position early on in this game, and that'll probably force us into an endgame position very quickly.
Okay, well, looks like we should be ready to get into this now. Scan versus sSaK here. Again, a lot of Terrans in this season of SSL, but they are at least one's going to get wiped out in this match here now, and then the winner is going to go up against Mini. So tough day for Terrans. Let's see how this losers match goes now. Our map is Deja Vu. Okay, cross spawns here. Scan in the bottom right as a brown Terran, and the blue Terran in the top left is sSaK.
The main thing we're going to be looking at the very beginning of this game is, does anyone expand before their factory? Like, could we see a command center first? Could we see a gasless expansion? Those two builds are incredibly strong, especially command center first in this matchup. It turns out, Tasteless, that just like Nexus first against Terran, command center first is incredibly powerful. It's just Terran's early game aggressive options are not that great compared to the other races. Like, you kind of have to already be blind countering to be able to stop that. Like, I did a deep dive, Tasteless, because I personally have such a hard time against command center first. So I'm like, okay, let me see what the top players in the world are doing. I watched 150 replays of Terran versus Terran between the top players on ladder and took stats on all of the openings against each other. And command center first, without a doubt, is the strongest. Without a doubt.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Is this a new trend in the matchup? I feel like we weren't talking about this in previous seasons.
Yeah. I think people got really good at holding everything with command center first. So, like, command center first win rate, like, obviously if there's double center barracks, you're going to lose every single time to that. But the thing is, double center barracks win rate against anything except for command center first is like literally in that 150 games, it was something like 5%. Like, it just can't beat anything else, right? So you have this absolute garbage rush that is the only thing that reliably beats the strongest build. So it's just about, like, the percentage of the time you want to use these things, I guess.
Interesting. You know, it's funny. Like, the same is true for double racks in the middle of the map versus Nexus first, where it's like, oh my god, yeah, this just beats it. And you can beat somebody who, like, one gates if you catch them off guard. There is it out there. But yeah, I was going to say, I felt like I didn't see command center first in the TVTs that I would cast with you or elsewhere.
Yeah.
But it sort of makes sense. You know, it's funny. Going for Nexus or command center first isn't new. I remember seeing command center first for the very, very first time ever was like maybe the year 2000, I was watching Orki Asmodi play.
Oh, yeah.
I was specking his game. He's a really good Russian player, all the Orki guys. There's a ton of great Terran players from there. But I remember just watching him make a command center first and kind of going, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that did not ever occur to me. And, like, sometimes people would rush and he would lose, but there were a lot of games where they, you know, someone would scout and they would just be like, oh, no.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't have any way to deal with that early on. And it seems like right now, with the meta the way it's at, from what you're saying, maybe this is, you know, what Terrans are going to lean into for now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think the right play is always, it's never to always do the same thing. Like, you want certain percentages so that you kind of punish hard counters, right? So, and you see here, like, Scan has kind of hedged, right? This is a gasless expansion where he scouted the center first to make sure he wasn't hard countered by, like, a center barracks, which, of course, would end up killing this build. And so it's like, okay, gives up a little tiny bit of economy, but look at this. His command center's done as SOC's finishes. So now the question is, like, can SOC get any sort of damage? How does he start to come back in this situation?
Now, okay, so here's an idea, and I actually don't know the answer, so I'm going to straight up asking you while we're doing this recording. I mean, if one guy goes for command center early on, and the other player has to basically play from behind, kind of in the same idea, the same vein as what we just saw with Mini Bisu, where, like, Mini couldn't really punish or attack or do anything, so it's like, well, I'm not going to try to throw the game away. Could you not, as the player who's technically behind here, get the upper hand by trying to control the center? Because you're going to have an army first, especially tanks with siege mode.
Yeah.
First, and at least try to play the positional game, because the center really dominates on this map.
Yeah, so the answer changes based on what you're playing against. So this is a gasless expansion, so it's a little bit slower than a command center first. So the factory expansion could technically try to do a vulture war, whereas if it was against command center first, you would simply lose the vulture war. Your opponent just gets his factories up too quickly in comparison, whereas you can have about the same number of vultures here. So the center control can be something that you go for, but there's going to be, like, this big unit flood that comes out from the player that got the expansion a little bit quicker, because their factories will come up more quickly. So it's hard to actually maintain that center control. You can send your units up, but it's like, there's a lot of options. For instance, does your opponent get speed and run around it? Do they just get enough units that your units being rallied so far across the map and them having one extra factory more quickly, is that going to be enough for them to break your position and then suddenly they're way ahead, right? So it's like, it's a very kind of risky thing. Looking at what SOC is doing, I don't even know exactly what this is. Like, he's gone 2 factory into starport, which is not common in this position at all. It looks like what he wants to do is go mines into a dropship. So he's laid a bunch of mines out, and this is the most common thing you do against this, is you just lay mines to see their movement. It's not really to kill tanks that are being sent across the map. It's more like, okay, I see what your units are, I see where you're at in the map, and I can start to react. And generally, you'll play kind of a more turtled position like this. But yeah, he's gotten a lot of vultures off of these 2 factories. It looks like a dropship's coming, and he's going to try to get some damage. But Scan is sitting here with 3 factory vultures. So, like, if he does a counterattack, you better have a bunker up. You better have blockers, right? Like, there's definitely going to be more vultures for Scan.
Well, we've got the dropship out now. You made a good point about the mines in this matchup, by the way. It's almost like mines in TVT are like caltrops. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know, they're not going to obliterate you as you move through them, but they will cause a lot of pain to slow things down. Occasionally, one mine will go off if you're not scanning and paying attention. You don't have enough firepower on the ground. So it seems like he's going to come down here and just go right into the natural, maybe even dropping 2 into the natural and then hitting the main as well.
Yeah, a 1-3 is actually great. You drop 1 at the natural, and then you drop 3 in the main to one-shot stuff, because it takes them longer to get back there. But right now, a lot of mines being laid by Scan. He sees where all these vultures are because of his mines, so he knows he can do it, and he actually does the tasteless 2-2 drop, I guess. Takes 3 shots to kill an SCV, I guess Tastosis and sSaK know best about how to drop vultures. But yeah, very, very strong drop. And now look at this. sSaK moves forward with some siege tanks, and Scan going to try to attack in.
Yeah, you know, these tanks are actually getting really good shots off on the vultures. It's funny. You can really see that these are units that are just not really great versus tanks, but he does get the mine set up. He does do a little bit of damage there. The vulture, the drop inside the main and the natural is cleaned up. Does feel like sSaK kind of lost on two fronts there.
Yeah, I don't know how many SCVs he really got with the drop. It doesn't seem like he got a lot, but now Scan is on 5 factories. He killed the first 3 siege tanks, so he's going to have map control for sure. And he's going into 3 add-ons, so we'll see a command center get started now. When you see those add-ons go up, it's like, okay, we're switching into tanks, right? Like time to expand. And yeah, he's got complete map control. It looks like Scan just has a better position right now in this game.
Yeah, and Scan's going to blanket this area with mines. He's taking his 3rd base here, the one that's closest to his main. And now we have the siege line being set up here by sSaK. There is a little exit path he can take to loop around here where his own 3rd is. Now, the setup for Scan, it's just the center of the map that he controls. He's not denying the 3rd base on the map or anything like that. But for now, this is going to develop into a game where Scan is going to have map control and be able to expand in more locations, but he'll also be burdened with more locations he'll have to defend from vulture run-bys and drops and things of the sort.
Yeah. You know, we can see if you look at the minimap, there's just so many dots all around. It's mostly scan mines, but there are still plenty of sSaK mines, so he's going to know when siege tanks are actually on the way for a containment. And at that point, he has to break out of that low ground defensive spot he's in. He doesn't really have to do it before that, but he is. Okay, that's good to see. Like, you basically, if they get tanks sieged on your ledge there, you're never going to win.
Okay, some tanks are going to come down here now. He's going to push up. It seems like Scan almost just let him take this, and I don't mean that in a critical way. I think there's moments where you might be overexposed. I think getting this 3rd base up and not having any kind of positional things hanging out, so to speak, where sSaK can punish you is not a bad idea. He's going to flee behind the minerals here in the center of the map. This base, or would-be base, isn't really an important location to keep in mind. It can be a factor in endgame, but really the gas is the most important resource in this matchup.
Yeah, and I gotta say, this dropship is actually getting a little bit of value now. It's being very annoying. You know, kills a couple SCVs over there at the new base, and sSaK is actually going to get his 3rd mining just seconds here before Scan. So very well done there from sSaK. The supplies are pretty close. You know, I liked Scan's position more, but right now it looks pretty darn even.
Yeah, this is still very doable here for sSaK. I think that, well, I don't see that many vultures here for sSaK. I was wondering for a second if maybe Scan could just try to plow through that position up there. There's a Scan, and oh man, dude, Scan just left after sSaK's Scan came in. And this drop's actually not even going to go to the natural. He's going to go all the way into the main. There is a Wraith to catch this, but that won't prevent these vultures from coming out and getting a lot of kills here onto these SCVs.
Yeah, luckily some tanks and vultures just finished there for Scan, so he'll be able to clean that up pretty quickly. If you get unlucky on the rounds and you're like halfway through your units and the other units are out in your rally, that can deal a lot of damage. But we'll be able to clean that up. In the meantime, Scan moving around the top of the map. He's going around a lot of these siege tanks, trying to catch sSaK a bit out of position. Now, a huge siege goes down. You've got to target the tanks specifically here. And Scan is blowing up quite a few, but it doesn't look like he'll break through.
Yeah, the vulture's going to come up. You can see Scan's tanks just shoot him down. There's just one tank here at the bottom. It's in such a funny position. They're both in range of each other. Although it seems like what's happening is Scan isn't aware of where that tank is that's been hitting him. So he's scanning over here to the side. Now, sSaK's going to slide down through his part of the map. He's continuing to grow into the bottom left. Scan is taking the top right main. Here comes the moment to try to fracture this position, and I'm just worried that Scan is kind of too spread out right now.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like he has any one area covered that well, and so sSaK is able to basically choose a location and strike at it with everything that he's got and really soften that spot up.
What a cool play here from sSaK. Adding in the cloaked wraiths, by the way. He had that dropship from the starport early on, and he's just been making some wraiths off of one starport and adds cloak in. And that helps to break that position as well. Yeah, I got to say, like, Scan definitely was a little bit too far out of position there. It's okay to try and attack like that. Oh, he did add a second starport as well. But it's okay to try and attack like that. But once it doesn't work, you're way behind enemy lines. You should probably unsiege and run away, you know? Rejoin up with all your army in the center and make sure that you have that critical mass that's so hard to attack.
Okay, we've got an attack coming in now. And, I mean, with these tanks, you have nice targeting here from sSaK. He is going to hit that one tank. Oh, my God. Is it +2 attack right now? No, I guess they both have +1 attack. I thought for a second Scan had +2 on his tanks.
Wow.
As I've learned from Tastosis, that is the most important upgrade, is +2, because tanks 2-shot other siege tanks when they're in siege mode versus 3.
This is a terrible position for Scan suddenly. We see he's actually up in supply, and he's got his 4th base up. sSaK just got his 4th base up as well. But sSaK scanned and saw the timing of the add-ons on those starports. He saw the wraiths. So his wraiths are making a beeline to eliminate these wraiths. See this? This is a huge moment. This is a huge moment in this game. Scan's anti-air being completely destroyed by this mass cloaked wraith. And Scan has added the add-ons to go into Valkyries, but it's going to take a while. This is terrible. You get into a position like this and your opponent has complete air dominance and you don't have anything. Like, the center is pretty even, right? Definitely a better ground army for Scan, but that doesn't mean you're going to break these tanks.
Yeah, and now at the top, Scan's going to come through here. He can fracture this position open right now, but the fact that the wraiths are doing this much damage and there's no real way to contest them is huge. They could go over to the center right. I don't know if there's turrets over there. There's actually nothing here. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
He can kill off all the SCVs here. If he wants to, he can go north of this spot as well and just wipe all the SCVs out that are up there, too. You know, we're seeing a lot of scuffles in the middle of the map, and some of them, to be frank, Scan's winning pretty impressively, but the fact that sSaK wiped those wraiths out and is killing workers, I think long-term this is really going to be something sSaK can probably pull through with a win on.
There's a lot of flexibility here for sSaK, right? That's something that I've been trying to talk about in his play, like especially his TVP. But you can see he's got all these like kind of teched out units. He's flying around with the wraiths. He's always finding ways to utilize them, right? He's picking off buildings, picking off siege tanks, forcing different like turrets all over the place. And while Scan has, again, a bigger, stronger ground army, that doesn't always matter, right? If your opponent has +2, he's sieged in a good position, it doesn't matter that you have 20 more ground supply.
Does this win?
The Wraiths win, yeah, just because of the spread.
I was going to say, I didn't think that Scan should have attacked there. I feel like you need maybe 4 Valkyries or something.
Yeah.
The Wraiths can just split.
Yeah.
So, you know, even though I think on paper one would imagine that, like, oh, yeah, Valkyries just destroy Wraiths. Like, well...
He killed a lot of them. It was like,
yeah, I mean,
there was value
but,
there, but you're right. Like, if he has 4 Valkyries there, he still has 3 left over and every Wraith is dead, basically.
Right. So we're getting the map split right down from the 12 o'clock spot through 6 o'clock. Yeah.
So here's my analysis here. So Scan doesn't actually have +2 yet, and sSaK does, and that's a huge, huge issue. Scan needs to siege and keep half the map. See, now sSaK has pushed past the halfway point now, and you can see his supply really ballooning at this point. He hasn't taken any economic damage, whereas his wraiths have dealt quite a bit. Scan needs to be very careful right now. If he attacks anymore, he's going to lose this game. To come back, he basically needs to set up a very strong siege line, half map, and find ways where he's outplaying sSaK, right? Like whether sSaK does a bad attack or Scan does a good drop. We saw him making some drop ships there, which is very nice. But yeah, he basically just needs to reinforce everything and make sure sSaK can't get on his side of the map to start.
Dude, with this many drop ships, looks like they're going to be moving south. Oh, maybe not, actually. You know, Scan just getting over here and knocking this position out, it could be pretty handy. But we have movement in two different directions here. So sSaK is just going to go all the way up here to the top right. Oh my God, the Wraith play. Oh man, I think this might be a loss on two different fronts here. This could actually be game because sSaK is going to wipe this position at the top right, and the drop in the bottom left didn't do anything. You know, Scan maybe a little bit too cavalier with his drop ships, didn't appreciate that, you know, the Wraith count could have been restarted, and there was not enough drop ships where you could just power through that position.
I think he was feeling kind of desperate, right? A lot of things went wrong for him in this game despite having a better opener. But very well played by sSaK, kind of using a style that you never really see from other Terran players. I really liked the way he approached this with the two-factory Vulture into a drop ship. And I think he caught Scan a little bit off guard and just kind of made some better moves here. And I mean, you're right, that was basically a game ender. sSaK's got a huge bank, he's got way more bases, he's got great upgrades, he's got a lot of drop ships. There's no way for Scan to win at this point.
Dropships now out on the map again here. Another location, basically unprotected. The eBay even making a little bit of space here for the drop to come in. And now we're going to have these SCVs scrambling to get out of here. And if they can't get out in time, most of them are just going to get wiped out. In fact, he's going to try to attack with this. Yeah, well, I guess he might as well try, but, you know. I guess there's a lot of different ways you can lose this game. I can't be too critical of, you know, the decision Scan's making here. GG. sSaK takes that game. Scan is out of the SSL, and that means Mini is going to be facing sSaK here in the final match. One of those two guys is moving on to the round of 16.
Yeah, you know, sad to see Scan go out once again with that 0-2, but a very tough group indeed. I think he played pretty solid overall, and you know, I think there's still a very bright future here for Scan. He's getting in more regularly, and hope to see him again next season.
Yeah, he's a great player. Is he still streaming, by the way?
He streams on Afrika TV mostly. Doesn't really do Twitch much anymore.
Got it. Okay, we'll check him out there, I guess. Yeah, great at English, easy to communicate with. Sometimes I have questions about the game, I'll text him. Unfortunately, sSaK is going to be moving on here. And this was the real moment that was the win here. It was the very sneaky move into this base to wipe out all the Wraiths. And this basically gives air supremacy to sSaK. Remember that most of this game has been Vulture tank. You can make Goliaths, obviously, and we saw one on screen there. It wasn't like not a single Goliath was made, but you know, when you get intense Vulture tank games, it's really important to have enough enough Wraiths out that then you can pick fights and win them. And when all those Wraiths assassinated and wiped out Scan's Wraiths, it just put Scan in a very tough spot. The game went on for like 5 more minutes from this point on, but really, I think that was the winning move.
For sure. For sure. You gain air control like that, and there's not much that can be done. You can't just make Goliaths and kind of spread them everywhere. You know, he capitalized upon his Wraiths and got so much value out of them. It's not even the SCV kills. It's killing your opponent's Wraiths and forcing all the anti-air. So really well done there from sSaK, showing just how strong his Terran versus Terran can be.
We're going to be going to a short break. After that, the final match of Group B, guys. We will be right back.
틀에 박힌 건 그만. 구속은 사양할게. 부담 없는 게 좋아. 통신을 내 방식대로. Live my life. Live M.
Look at the sky so blue wishing I never knew you. Tears falling like rain, you'll never see me again. Packed up my suitcase tight, gone before morning light. Left nothing but pain, you'll never see me again. I'm moving on, my friend. This heartbreak has to end. Loneliness in the wind, you'll never see me again. Pictures in the drawer, don't need them anymore. I'm breaking this chain, you'll never see me again. I'm moving on, my friend. This heartbreak has to end. Loneliness in the wind, you'll never see me again. Gone without the sound, don't need them anymore. I'm breaking this chain, you'll never see me again. Gone without a sound, no more lost and found. A new life I begin, you'll never see me again.
This is it for Group B. We've got a TVP to close this out. I think Mini probably the favorite here, but I would say this is like a 6-4 matchup. Like Mini should take it, but definitely doable for sSaK.
Yeah. And again, I think because of his style of kind of having a little bit more to play with tech-wise and, you know, not being a super optimizer or anything like that, that helps against someone like Mini who's looking to abuse a lot of those types of plays. I feel like that's where Mini really shines, is he's like, well, I know at this point, you know, you have only 3 siege tanks and you're trying to take a 3rd, so that's when I come in and do this move. And sSaK is just like, yeah, I don't know. I have like way more units than that. And I have scanners for some reason. So, you know, I feel like stylistically, this is a pretty decent matchup for sSaK. So we'll see if he's able to get that upset on Radeon here against Mini.
Yeah, Mini, I do think his biggest weakness is not actually any player, but the format. In best of ones, you know, sometimes he could really go the wrong route in a game where I think he could have just played a conservative, safe game. So let's see what happened, guys. This is it. Mini versus sSaK here on Radeon as we close out Group B. Cross spawns Mini here in the red in the top right, and sSaK down in the bottom left in the blue. Before getting into our final game, guys, we're going to do that final plug for the Patreon. We did one at the start in Game 1. We're going to do one here in Game 5. Consider signing up for the Patreon. It's patreon.com/ASL English. Sign up for a year if you would. We would not be able to do this without you guys, and we love you guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. It's just such a pleasure to continue to cast this. One of my favorite times of the year, without a doubt, or two of my favorite times of the year. Being able to do ASL or SSL at this point. It's just, it's such a pleasure to see the absolute best players in the world bring out their absolute best to try to win this tournament. And you know, it's the oldest esport. It's the hardest game, especially for Terran players. You know, it's just, it's a wonderful thing.
It's you know, it's funny. This is a format that really still only exists in Korea. Even though esports, I mean, outside of StarCraft, even esports in general has seen a huge rise globally. You know, we were just there in Riyadh for the World Cup. We've been all through Asia casting events. We've been in Europe and North America. But this format of having an intense amount of games with a couple players for one day in a palatable, about the length of a movie, could be a short movie, could be a long movie, amount of time, and then having players come back again, and basically over the course of, you know, maybe 9 to 13 to 17 days, you have a season of a show. It follows the old TV format because all of StarCraft was put on cable originally.
Yeah.
So they had to schedule this block of time to show it to people. But it does seem to work in the modern era, you know, where we watch TV dramas, whether you're like somebody who's watching HBO where they drop an episode a week, or you watch Netflix where they drop the whole season at once. I know that there's people that consume both types of this for ASL, now called SSL, where you have, you know, people that wait a whole season and then basically over the course of a weekend watch the whole tournament, or people that just wait for us to drop these episodes on YouTube. It's still just a great form of entertainment, you know?
The best form of entertainment. Like, really, I spend more time watching StarCraft than any other form, so there you go. There you have it. Taking a look at these builds, by the way, it is cross-spawn Nexus first for Mini. So, you know, memes aside, that is the strongest opener that you can basically get in StarCraft. Like, the cross spawn is almost impossible to kill just because of the travel distance and how late you oftentimes scout it. I do like that he's already got a Marine on the map, so you can tell that sSaK is kind of dialed in because Mini goes Nexus first more than any other Pro Protoss.
Right. By the way, the pylon on the high ground, does he want to put a cannon on the low ground? Is that the idea?
Must be. Must be. I haven't seen that particular placement on this map. And in fact, I didn't even realize he was going Forge, but is that a cannon or is that a pylon?
Click on it.
Wow.
Ooh.
Damn, that's far out there, man.
You know what? I wonder, okay, I think there's actually something really smart to this. I wonder if when you see their base and you see that there's no pylon, you go, oh, I can rush them.
Yeah, maybe.
You know, you go, okay, no cannon. Or at least nowhere to put a cannon. But in reality, he just puts the pylon out there so that maybe, and it didn't happen this game, by the way, but it could prompt the opponent to send workers across the map and then go into the cannon. Or, you know, get halfway through it and go, oh, wait, I can't do this. I got to turn around. Yeah. Which is sort of just this way to set up, something confusing enough that you could just win the game on its own because your opponent misreads a very difficult situation to get a check on. In a period of time that they don't have a whole lot of time to react. They have to be very decisive.
Mini's play is so good here. Yeah, like everything you just said, but he also slipped the Zealot out before the Vulture got there, so he's going to get like probably a full scout with the Zealot just by shoving it in. And he's actually gone Robo as well. So he's read the situation correctly. If sSaK happened to be doing a similar rush to what he did against Bisu, he would very likely break through because there's just going to be no units. But with the very fast Robo, that's going to be a great counterplay to this Mines opener that we have from sSaK. So, yeah, really well done by Mini as far as the opener goes.
It's funny because it seems almost like, you know, it would be like the perfect opportunity. I'm glad that sSaK actually, you know, spotted that Zealot and was able to shoot it with the Marine, but it's so ingenious because if you can just get the Zealot in there, the big disadvantage you have when you do go for Nexus first is that your observers are really late and you kind of don't know what Terran's doing. A lot of times you have to wait to be attacked to figure it out. But in this case, yeah, the fact that he got the Zealot out there is kind of crazy.
And Mini just set up a photon cannon in his main base, so he's countering drops, which aren't going to happen. This is an armory build from sSaK. And then I believe he just put a Zealot behind his mineral line and put a pylon down to block Vultures if they get dropped behind that mineral line from running from the Zealot. His setup is so perfectly like done. It's just, and we know that this is one of Mini's like real superpowers. Is, you know, he practices a lot in single player. He makes sure his building placement is perfect. Everything about his setup is just like, if you tried any of these cheap tricks that Terran try, you're gonna get slammed because of it.
Now he's got his first observer out, so he can start to clear these mines. You got to be careful because you don't have Dragoon range here. Dragoons are stupid, man. They will just walk into range of the mine. It's actually a very odd feature about the Dragoon. Like, you can have Dragoons that have range, and they will walk into range of the bunker even though they can fire outside of the range. There's something about the startup animation for it moving that is interrupted by the attack animation later than a lot of other units. Like a tank just stops immediately and fires. But yeah, so you want to be careful when you're out on the map with the Dragoons because if you're not micromanaging them perfectly, you will still run into mines.
Yeah, I think it has to do with their gait, honestly, like the way their legs move, which would be an animation type thing like you mentioned. But I definitely know exactly what you're talking about. Marines actually have it to a certain degree, which I didn't even realize until I played on the Carbot skin, where you can really clearly see their steps. It's much smaller than the Dragoon steps, but yeah, kind of a funny thing about the old game here. Now, the Dragoons coming out, they're going to clear a bunch of mines and kind of gain a bit of map control here. sSaK going very defensive. You can see he pulls his SCVs up just in case of attack, but it's not actually occurring. Mini instead doing what Nexus First does best, which is a fast third base.
Yeah.
That's the real power of Nexus First, by the way, for people that don't know. The real power is how quickly you can get your third up. It's not the speed of the natural, because like 2 base Protoss is dealable, but the fact that you get your third up almost like instantly with it is like your economy really explodes at that point.
Yeah. You get these probes thrown over here, you've got plenty of Dragoons, and you know, there's just, like any other matchup, there's just a lot of ways that you can tech here. You know, just like a normal gateway expand into third base PVT. There's just a lot that's still very workable for you. So back here, sSaK is just powering up. He's got his starport. He's with the add-on here. He's got his armory. He's staying back. We did have a shuttle. I assume there's going to be a Reaver in there. Third command center started. It's going to be a slow game, for sure.
Yeah, I don't really see any way for anyone to do a strong attack right now. A good defensive setup here for sSaK, who is making his third command center. As Mini realizes that third command center is on the way, and this is in fact like an upgrade Terran type of build, I think we'll see that 4th Nexus go down really quickly. But he does add a ton of gateways here. There is a possibility that he just tries to deny the 3rd landing. I feel like it's actually probably a better play to just go 4th Nexus, but I can see why, you know, you're playing against Upgrade Terran. Maybe the unit-heavy approach here will be one that you favor.
I mean, it makes sense. I think that, you know, if you try to plow into that and just stop it, it's going to work really nicely. It does seem like you can basically set up a move where you're going to have a lot of charge lots and a lot of shuttles and try to dive bomb that spot up there. At 12 o'clock, I think Mini's still going to take that base too. But, I mean, this is going to be the big moment. Look at how big the wraparound is from where you leave your main and then all the way around the rim of that to get to that third base. It just seems like you should be able to plow into the Terran if they try to do that. I guess we're going to find out right now.
Yeah, yeah. This is a pretty common thing to do if Terran's going out kind of slowly to try to just shove units into that area. You can see he's got a good amount of gateways. He is getting ready for that fourth base and does start that. A dropship gets loaded up for sSaK. This has some potential for counterplay, right? If Mini is sending all of his units down to deny the third, that's where the dropship may be able to find some damage.
Okay, the tanks are going to move out. There's an observer to spot. Now, he can buy time. Oh, my God. These shots. Okay, it connects very nicely. Takes out 2 vultures immediately. Now, it's also appropriate for the Protoss to back off if he doesn't think this is going to work. I mean, that's a sign of a good player. When you look at that and you go, I don't feel safe about this. I don't think I have the right read. I think I need to step away. There are those zealots we were talking about. He's probably going to make a couple more rounds of that. And then, I mean, what is he's at 154, so 2 more rounds out of the gateways and he's going to be maxed out. He might be attacking in there.
I actually really like this drop from sSaK. Like, this is nice.
Yeah,
he's canceled a cannon, he kills a goon, lays some mines, he's going to slow mining, kill some probes. Very, very nice. As long as he doesn't throw this away, I think you just send this to the top left and just say, okay, let's, like, I don't know, deny a Nexus up there or something for now and maybe fly in later.
He's going to go for it.
Oh, man. Yeah, no wall there yet. He actually sets up the wall, so this is going to slow Mini down. Very good job setting that wall up, a very important configuration. But there's so many speed lots coming in and getting on top of these siege tanks. But sSaK is actually doing a pretty reasonable job of holding this.
Yeah, I didn't like how Mini tried to get in there. I think he drove him back a little bit, and this is going to have to lift off. And look, that is a punish.
Yeah,
the question is going to be, can Mini come in and do it again and again and again? Because otherwise, like, you lost a lot of Zealots and Dragoons and Reavers for that, right?
Yeah, he traded units, but he's got 4 base mining against currently 2. You know, he's trying to get that third one up, and now Mini starts that 5th base in the top left. And it, like, sSaK definitely is not ready for an attack or anything, right? Like, oh my God, the attack comes in again before he has any real setup. The bombs forcing sieges and unsieges, and Mini just coming in, targeting down some tanks. This is really superb play from Mini.
Yeah, and you can see if Terran is just a little bit out of position, he's going to drag this mine in. Oh my gosh. We've had several moments where I think the mine is going to go off, and it just doesn't quite.
Well, sSaK technically holds on, but he's below 100 supply, which is never, ever, ever a good thing. And, you know, it's something I like to talk about a lot when I'm casting TVPs, like on my YouTube or something, is this 5th base. The 5th base is the action maker, where it's like when Protoss takes a 5th Nexus, as Terran, you either have to attack or take your 4th. You cannot sit on 3 base against 5. It's 100% losing position. So he's done all this trading. He's kept sSaK's supply low, so sSaK kind of has to expand from here. And if you expand from here, you're playing so defensively, Mini can go up to like 7 bases and do whatever he wants at that point. So I feel like Mini is just in complete control of this game.
Mini going to hit again here. Is this an overextension? I just see, well, actually there's more Dragoons coming down here now. He might be able to take out this position in the back here. He's very good at sending these Zealots to individual locations. He's just cleared this. And now I think this may be the fatal blow, actually, because sSaK's looking around. He realizes he has no way to reclaim that command center. It's going to be lifted off. The SCVs are mostly going to get away, which is good. But basically, Mini is growing while sSaK is shrinking.
A tough game. A tough game. I think sSaK did make a few good moves in here. But when it is that cross-spawn Nexus first and your opponent has that advantage, it's like, how do you start to come back from that? It can be pretty tough to figure something out. He is doing a drop here into that top left, that drop ship we were talking about earlier. And the probes are, there's actually so many probes. He's going to get the tank even with vultures killing probes at the speed of light. Oh my god.
Oh, big trap. The problem is I think this might be too late. I mean, that's cool that he killed those Dragoons, but the engine that's been built here by sSaK is just, I'm sorry, by Mini, is just something I don't know if sSaK can really deal with. sSaK is, every time we go back, he just has less tanks. And, you know, over time, if a Terran player loses enough tanks, there's no difficulty in breaking it for the Protoss.
Yeah.
You know, it's when you see 12, 15, 20 tanks, you go, oh man, nothing gets in there. But when it's these low numbers like this, Reavers can pick off the Vultures in big groups. The Dragoons can kind of power through. The Zealots can sponge up the damage, and that's really all you need.
sSaK not even able to take this third base. He barely minded at all in this game. And he knows that this is over. He knows that he's dead. He's trying to make something happen, but there's nothing to happen. You know, Mini has kept him, like, down around 100 supply for the majority of this game.
Yeah, another Psystorm damaging those tanks on the high ground. We're going into that super modern PvT style of just speed shuttles, Reavers, Zealots, Templars at the end here with Storms to kind of just chisel down these positions.
Yeah.
And, oh my god, the Reaver's going to get a kill on the command center. That's insane.
Yeah, it's just sSaK kind of like taking it all in. He's realizing, oops, I'm eliminated here from SSL.
Yeah. And you can see the Storm is really the nail in the coffin because it's no longer about trying to run in there and get the damage off with the Zealots and Dragoons. You just sort of blanket these little blotches of Terran on the screen. You can always do the Storm drops like we already have here. You know, especially when Terran's on 2 bases. I mean, there's not that many spots to put SCVs, so here we go. Ouch. GG.
Well, that
what can
was,
I say, man?
Yeah.
Mini's a king.
Some one-sided stuff tonight. Like, Bisu absolutely slammed both his games. Mini got slammed by Bisu and slammed both his other games. The TVT was close, though. The TVT was close. That was a good match.
Yeah, cool openings in our very first game of the day as well. I did enjoy the PvP. You know, it's interesting to kind of see how the builds play out. Excited that Bisu's advancing. I mean, these are 2 great Protosses. If you're someone who's cheering for the Protoss players, these are your 2 guys. We got Rain already. Round of 16 looking pretty fearsome.
Yeah. And kind of a fun night to learn from. This is pretty reflective of the ladder experience. For the 3 TVPs, there was one base build and 2 Nexus first. So, guys, if you wanna experience this yourself, just log on with Terran onto the ladder. And that's basically the ratio that you'll get.
We're going to be going to a highlight of Mini and then an interview. See how he's feeling. Curious what part of the highlight they're going to show us here. I didn't really expect him to bring this on screen, but, you know, denying this drop. And I think shortly after this, he just topples the spot that was down here. It's not that often you see the drops used the way they were here. They were dropped like in tandem with the Zealots running in, which was kind of an interesting thing. But it did allow the Reavers to basically get a couple shots off. And originally I thought this might not work at all, but I guess it's almost more important to just have the Zealots tanking damage, even if the Dragoons are stuck in the back, and have the Reavers getting the shots off, which I've never really appreciated until I saw this here.
Yeah. One thing to note is I think it's incredibly important on Radeon. The first thing you should do is wall that little choke, right? Because you have to have most of your units at the front. So, like, get your depots up immediately, get them to high health so that your opponent cannot do that. And the one other thing I did mention, when he had done that drop at that kind of 12 o'clock base, I feel like you're supposed to send that dropship to another main to just deny a 5th at that point, which unfortunately didn't get done. Anyways, quick switch over here to the interview with Mini.
You're watching Group B of the round of 24 of KB Live Mobile SSL Autumn 2024. No upsets were delivered today as both Tier 1 and Tier 2 players advanced through to the round of 16, so let's have a word with our second place finisher, Mini. Congratulations. Thank you. You advanced on through the elimination match, which makes it your 12th appearance in the round of 16. We could see a bright smile of relief wash over your face. How are you feeling? It seems that every time I play the round of 24, I advance having to play the elimination match. Things are tough. Now, both in the game against Scan and the one against Bisu, you played very safely. You went up to observers, you decided to take things safe. Was this your concept, your approach for today from the get-go? I am known for being a player who deals with extremities. For instance, even in the round of 24, I would go for a 12 Nexus, and I have this reputation of taking a gamble. So after securing the first set, I decided to play as safe as I could. Then I overextended at the front, and I thought, what if I try and fight further back? But then I guess I just got sloppy and fought on my opponent's side. Seems there are some lingering regrets from that match against Bisu. In the elimination match against sSaK, you guys played on Radeon, and again, you went for a 12 Nexus. It seems that's how I always advance when playing Terran, with the 12 Nexus. It was the same last season. In PvT, if you don't start like that, vultures are so scary. Somehow, in tournament play, they are super quick. If they slip past, you lose your mind. 12 Nexus is the best build, the most suitable build. All things considered, sSaK is very skilled at using dropships, and you did build cannons, you kept observers on the lookout. I was playing with a conviction that sSaK would use dropships, but contrary to my expectations, he did not. And I thought, oh, this is bad. He's going for a quick third. But thankfully, he did not do that either. As you said yourself, watching you play in the round of 24 is a bit of a nerve-wracking experience for your fans, and today was no different as you had to go through the elimination match, but you always get stronger after bouncing back. One can't help but have expectations for you. There have been so many occasions in the round of 24 where I would slip up. I think I'm the least stable of the Tier 1 players. I personally think that. My points are really high, but compared to the rest of Tier 1, I have dropped out in the round of 24 the most. I usually gain confidence from the round of 8 forward. Now, in the round of 16, I've also lost the opening match many times because it's a best of 1. If I manage to take the first game, I should be able to advance. A Mini overflowing with confidence is something we are looking forward to in the round of 16. Do you have anything to say to your fans to close things out? Well, for starters, Barracks, JYJ, and Rush, thank you for helping me practice. A lot of people gave me their support, and I thank them for that too. Additionally, my students for sending me DMs and cheering for me. I will have a more solid showing than I did in the round of 24. Thank you. Congratulations on advancing to the round of 16. Thanks for the interview. Thank you. And that does it for our interview with today's second place finisher, Mini.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
Looks like our two Protosses are going to be moving on. Again, nothing too crazy. Well, we're always going to have days like this, especially in the round of 24. Could have been maybe a little bit of a closer group, but hindsight's 20/20, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, these are the two guys that should be moving on. You know, you want to see the strongest players advance. It's fun to have upsets sometimes, but Mini and Bisu, the round of 16 would not be the same without them. And in fact, wouldn't be surprised at all if we see them both in the round of 8 and, you know, maybe even one of them into that round of 4+. So a very, very tough group for Scan and sSaK. Hopefully we will see them back in the future. Our next matchup is going to be Group C, Rush, Motive, Royal, Saxry. This is a real group of death, man. Motive is in ridiculously strong shape right now. Saxry, ridiculously strong shape right now. And, of course, Rush and Royal, two of our best Terrans for the last few years.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one. Rush and Royal looking so scary. I really learn a lot every time I cast these guys play in here. And we're going to have that out right away, guys. It's good to be back. I'm so excited to have ASL again. Or sorry, SSL. I'm still not used to it.
No,
I'm sure you guys aren't used to it yet either.
It'll take a bit. But yeah, it's been fantastic, and it will continue to be so. I'm very excited about that next group. Can't wait to see what SAK3 can bring us as well. I actually think SAK3's getting out of that group, Tasteless, just so you know.
He could. I'm going to go with the 2 Terrans there. I think Rush and Royal. Guys, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Please check out the Patreon at patreon.com/ASL English, and we will see you again soon.